Good morning. Good morning. All right, we're gonna get right into it. I liked reading, and not stopping so much. So that's what we're gonna do today. Hi, whoever that one person is. Hey, if y'all ever just want to stop in and just say hi and leave, that's fine. Don't just say hi and go. Say hey. Don't just come in and leave. Say hey. All right, so we're gonna be reading Joshua chapter 5. Oh no, I'll have to put day 17. I'll put it at the end. Day 17. Joshua 15 to Judges 4. Boom. So we're gonna try to read. Let me tap this over here so it's even. We're gonna try to read more through this time. This period. Okay. So this is the division of the land west of the Jordan. So it says, now these are the areas that the Israelites received as inheritance in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the heads of the tribe. Whoa, yeah, what? No, sorry. I read that. Okay, 15. It says the allotment for the tribe of Judah. Clan by clan extended down from the territory of Edom to the desert of Zin to the extreme south. I'm going to read this all in my head because it's just explaining the boundaries, okay? Okay. Okay. So that's just explaining the allotment for the tribe of Judah, clan by clan. So this is going to be the allotment from Ephraim, and Manasseh. So in both, I am going to point out that in chapter 15 it said Judah could not dislodge the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. To this day, the Jebusites live there with the people of Judah. At the end of the reading for the territory of Ephraim, clan by clan, it says they could not dislodge the Canaanites living in Jezer. So to this day, the Canaanites live among the people of Ephraim, but are required to do forced labor. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to like say, I don't know. We'll just keep reading, but I don't know if this is going to be like a problem because God didn't want them to live amongst them. But remember, they made that treaty, so I don't know if that's the reason why. I think it is because it says they're required to do forced labor. That's the reason why. But I know that God did not want them to be living among them. So now we're in chapter 17, and this is the allotment for the tribe of Manasseh. Then it says, yet for the Manassites were not able to occupy these towns, for the Canaanites were determined to live in that region. However, when the Israelites grew stronger, they subjected the Canaanites to forced labor, but did not drive them out completely. The people of Joseph said to Joshua, why have you given us only one allotment and one portion for inheritance? We are as numerous as the people of the Lord blessed us abundantly. If you are so numerous, Joshua responded, and if the hill county of Ephraim is so small for you, go up into the forest and clear land for yourself, there in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaites. The people of Joseph replied, the hill country is not enough for us, and all the Canaanites who live in the plains have iron chariots, both in Beth Shan and its settlements, and those in the valley of Jezreel. But Joshua said to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh, you are numerous and very powerful, and you will not only have one allotment, but the forested hill country as well. Clear it, and its farthest limits will be yours. Though the Canaanites have iron chariots, and though you are strong, you can drive them out. I think this is showing us so far. It's showing us that God, what God said was true about them being a thorn, like the Canaanites and everybody who wasn't, for the Israelites being a thorn in their side because they continue having problems. Like they already have them working forced labor, which is whatever. But now they're saying they wanted to live there. In the chapter before, it said they did not dislodge the Canaanites living among them. But then it says that they were too powerful and they had to wait for the Israelites to become more powerful to overtake them. So now we're in chapter 18. It says a whole assembly of the Israelites gathered at Shiloh and set up a tent of meeting there. The country was brought under their control, but there were still 7 Israelites tribe who had not received their inheritance. So Joshua said to the Israelites, how long will you wait for me? How long will you wait before you begin to take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you? Appoint 3 men from each tribe, and I will send them out to make a survey of the land and to write a description of it according to the inheritance of each. Then they would return to me, and you are to divide the land into 7 parts. Judah is to remain in its territory on the south, and the house of Joseph in its territory on the north. After you have written descriptions of 7 parts of land, bring them here to me, and I will cast lots for you in the presence of the Lord our God. The Levites, however, did not get a portion among you because the priestly service of the Lord is their inheritance. And Gad, Reuben, and the half tribe of Manasseh Manasseh, maybe I don't know, have already received their inheritance on the east side of the Jordan. Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave it to them. As the men started on their way to map out the land, Joshua instructed them, "Go and make survey of the land and write a description of it. Then return to me, and I will cast lots for you here at Shiloh in the presence of the Lord." So the men left and went through the land. They wrote its description on a scroll, town by town, in 7 parts, and returned to Joshua in the camp of Shiloh. Joshua then cast lots for them in Shiloh in the presence of the Lord, and there he distributed the land to the Israelites according to their tribal divisions. Now is the allotment of Benjamin. But before we go there, I do want to take note of this. Joshua said to the Israelites in verse 3, "How long will you wait before you begin to take possession of the land the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you?" That's the same when God tells us. When God tells us something, we don't need to wait. So many people use the excuse of waiting on God. I'm going to wait on God. I'm going to rest in God. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. And you can wait on the Lord, but what are you doing when you're waiting? And after you are done waiting, if God tells you, "Oh, this is yours," then you should go get it. How long are you going to wait before you seize the opportunities that God has placed before you? Period, period, period. So I'm putting, how long will we wait before seizing the opportunity that the Lord has placed before us? If the Lord tells us that something is ours, then we need to go get it. All right. Where are we? Oh, yeah, we're on 19. No, we're on the end. So it says the allotment of Benjamin. So the tribe of Benjamin, clan by clan, had the following cities: Jericho, Beth, Hogla, Emek, Keziz, Beth Araba, Zemarium, Bethel, Avim, Param, Ophrah, Kafar Ammoni, Opni, Jeba. That's 12 towns and their villages. Then they had 14 more towns and their villages. So Benjamin was blessed. Mm. Okay, so Benjamin was blessed. All right, cool. So now we're in chapter 19, which is allotment for Simeon. It says the inheritance of the Simeonites was taken from the share of Judah because Judah's portion was more than they needed. So the Simeonites received their inheritance within the territory of Judah. Okay, now we're to share. Okay, so now we're in the cities of refuge, which is chapter 20. So the Lord says to Joshua, tell the Israelites to designate cities of refuge as I instructed you through Moses, so that anyone who kills a person accidentally and intentionally may flee there to find protection from the avenger of blood. When he flees to one of these cities, he is to stand in the entrance of the city gate and state his case before the elders of that city. Then they are to admit him into their city and give him a place to live. If the avenger of blood pursues him, they must not surrender the one accused because he killed his neighbor unintentionally and without af- malice aforethought. He's to stay in that city until he has stood trial before the assembly until the death of the high priest who was serving at that time. Then he may go back to his own home in the town from which he fled. So they set apart Kadesh in Galilee in the hill country of Naphtali, Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba in the hill country of Judah on the east side of the Jordan of Jericho. They designated Bezer, the desert on the plateau, the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth and Gilead, and the tribe of Gad, and Golan and Bashan, and the tribe of Manasseh. Any of the Israelites or any alien living among them who killed someone accidentally could flee to these designated cities and not be killed by the avenger of blood prior to standing trial before the assembly. So these are the towns for the towns for the Levites. Now the family heads of the Levites approached Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the other tribal families of Israel at Shiloh in Canaan, and said to them, "The Lord commanded through Moses that you give us towns to live in, with pastures for our livestock. So as the Lord had commanded, the Israelites gave the Levites the following towns and pasture lands out of their own inheritance. The first lot came from the Kohathites. I don't know where I was getting. The first lot came from the Kohathites, clan by clan. The Levites were descendants of Aaron. The priests allocated 13 towns from the tribe of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. The rest of the Kohath's descendants were allotted 10 towns from the clans of the tribes of Ephraim, Dan, and half of Manasseh. The descendants of Gershon were allotted 13 towns from the clans of the tribes of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and the half tribe of Manasseh and Bashan. The descendants of Merari, clan by clan, received 12 towns from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Zebulun. So the Israelites allotted the Levites these towns and their pasture lands as the Lord commanded through Moses. From the tribes of Judah and Simeon, they all allotted the following towns by name. These towns were assigned to the descendants of Aaron, who were from the Kohathite clans of the Levites, because the first lot fell to them. They gave Kiriath Arba and its surrounding pasture land in the hill country of Judah, but the fields and the villages around that city they gave to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, as his possession. So the descendants of Aaron the priest, they gave Hebron, Libnah, Jatir, Eshtemoh, Holon, Debir, Ain, Juttah, but no, not Juttah, it's like Juttah, Beth Shemesh, together with their pasture lands, 9 towns from these 2 tribes. And from the tribe of Benjamin, they gave Gibeon, Jeba, Anathoth, and Almon, all together with their pasture lands, which is 4 towns. All the towns for their priests, the descendants of Aaron, were 13 together with their pasture lands. The rest of the Kohathite clans of the Levites were allotted towns from the tribe of Ephraim. In the hill country of Ephraim, they were given Shechem and Jezer and Kizim and Beth Horon, together with their pasture lands, which is 4 towns. From the tribe of Dan, they gave 4 towns. From the half tribe of Manasseh, they gave 2 towns. All 10 towns and their pasture lands were given to the rest of the Kohathite clans. So then it's just explaining that the Levi clans of the Gershonites were given 2 towns from Manasseh. It's just saying how many towns were given to them. It says the towns of the Levites in the territory held by the Israelites were 48 in all, together with their pasture lands. Each of these towns had pasture lands surrounding it, and it was true for all these towns. So the Lord gave Israel the land that he sworn to give their forefathers, and they took possession of it and settled there. The Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he swore to their forefathers. Not one of their enemies withstood them, and the Lord handed all their enemies over to them. Now one of the Lord's good promises of the house of Israel failed. Everyone was fulfilled. So I said fulfill. 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 Anyway, so as we see, the Levites weren't promised inheritance. Like, they weren't given an inheritance by the Lord, right? But by the Lord. But every clan or every tribe / clans, whatever, gave towns and land to the Levites. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because you see how they're taking care of their leaders, their priests, and their families. That's the same way that we have to like take care of ours. And a lot of people get mad when they see pastors or ministers riding around in like nice cars or something. But you have to realize that if these are like your spiritual leaders, I mean, it's not like they should be Maseratis, like, and if they do, then they do. But why should people live in a a place of less than just because they're a spiritual leader. Like if they're leading spiritually, they're going through spiritual warfare. So we need to be looking out for them. And that's what I see here. Everybody's pitching in to look out for them. Everybody else had about 4 cities, 4 towns, whatever. They ended up having 48 because everybody pitched in because they're doing the work of the Lord. So when you see somebody doing the work of the Lord, don't let them, check yourself. Look out for them. I said pitching and look out for your spiritual leaders. Okay. 22. It says, Then Joshua summoned the Reubenites, Jedites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, and said, You have done all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and have obeyed me in everything that I commanded. For a long time now, to this very day, you have not deserted your brothers, but carried out the mission the Lord your God has given you. Now that the Lord your God has given your brothers rest as he promised, return to your homes in the land that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the other side of the Jordan. But be careful to keep the commandment and the law that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in his way, to obey his commands, and to hold fast to him, and to serve him with all your heart and all your soul. Then Joshua blessed them and sent them on their way, and they went back to their home. When Joshua sent them home, he blessed them, saying, Return to your homes with your great wealth and with your large herds of livestock, with silver, gold, bronze, and iron, and with great quantity of clothing, and divide with your brothers the plunder from your enemies. So the Reubenites, Jedites, and half tribe of Manasseh left the Israelites at Shiloh in Canaan to return to Gilead, their own land, which they had acquired in accordance with the command of the Lord through Moses. When they came to uh, Jeliloth, near the Jordan in the land of Canaan, the Reubenites, the Jedites, and the half tribe of Manasseh built an imposing altar there by Jordan. And when the Israelites heard that they built an altar on the border of Canaan in the Jeliloth, near the Jordan on the Israelite side, the whole assembly of Israel gathered at the Shiloh to go to war against them. Why did they do that? So the Israelites sent Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, to the land of Gilead, to Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh. With him they sent 10 of the chief men, one for each tribe of Israel, including the head of the family division among the Israelite clans. When they went to Gilead to Reuben and Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh, they said to them, The whole assembly of the Lord says, How could you break faith with the God of Israel like this? How could you turn away from the Lord and build yourselves an altar in rebellion against him now? Was not the sin of Peor enough for us? Up to this day we have not cleansed ourselves from that sin, even though a plague fell on the community of the Lord. And you are now turning away from the Lord. If you rebel against the Lord today, tomorrow he will be angry with the whole community of Israel. If the land you possess is defiled, come over to the Lord's land where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and share the land with us. But do not rebel against the Lord or against us by building an altar for yourselves, other than the altar for the Lord your God. When Achan, son of Zerah, acted unfaithfully regarding the devoted things, did wrath not come upon the whole community of Israel? He was the only one who died for his sins. Then Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh replied to the heads of the clans, The mighty one, God, the Lord, the mighty one, God, the Lord, he knows, and let Israel know. If this has been a rebellion or disobedience to the Lord, do not spare us this day. If we have built our own altar to turn away from the Lord and to offer burnt offerings and grain offerings or sacrifice fellowship offerings on it, may the Lord himself call us to account. No, we did it for fear that someday your descendants might say to ours, What do you have to do with the Lord, the God of Israel? The Lord has made the Jordan the boundary between us and you, the Reubenites and the Jedites, and you have no share in the Lord. So your descendants may cause ours to stop fearing the Lord. This is why we said, Let us get ready and build an altar, not for burnt offerings or sacrifices. On the contrary, it is to be a witness between us and you and the generations that follow, that we will worship the Lord as his sanctuary with our burnt offerings, sacrifices, and fellowship offerings. Then in the future, your descendants will not say to ours, you have no share in the Lord. And we will say, if they ever say this to us or to our descendants, we will answer, look at the replica of the Lord's altar, which our fathers built, not for burnt offerings and sacrifices, but as a witness between us and you. Okay, period. Far be it from us to rebel against the Lord and turn away from him today by building an altar for burnt offerings, grain offerings, and sacrifices, other than the altar of the Lord our God that stands before his tabernacle. When Phinehas the priest and the leaders of the community, the heads of the clan of the Israelites, heard what Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh had to say, they were pleased. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, said to Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, today we know that the Lord is with us, because you have not acted unfaithfully towards the Lord in this matter. Now you have rescued the Israelites from the Lord's hand. When Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, and the leaders returned to Canaan from their meeting with the Reubenites and the Gadites in Gilead and reported to the Israelites, they were glad to hear the report and praised God. And they talked no more about going to war against them to devastate the country where the Reubenites and the Gadites lived. And the Reubenites and the Gadites gave the altar this name, a witness between us that the Lord is God. Ooh, emphasis on holding each other accountable. They came to them like, you was not going to send another plague on us because you're going to build this altar, and that's on the period. But hold your loved ones accountable. And that's all I'm going to put. Because, like I said before, the blessings that we get can affect other people as well as being cursed or God not being pleased with us. It all affects each other. Let me put this in my pages. It all affects each other, so you better hold people accountable like, what are you doing? Because you're not going to affect me with your sins. Okay? So it says, chapter 23, after a long time had passed and the Lord had given Israel the rest from their enemies and around them, Joshua by then was well advanced in years, summoned all Israel, their elders, leaders, judges, and officials, and said to them, I am old and well advanced in years. You yourself have seen everything the Lord your God has done to all these nations for your sake. It was the Lord your God who fought for you. Remember how I allotted an inheritance from your tribes and all the land of the nations that remain, the nations I conquered between the Jordan and the Great Sea in the west. The Lord your God himself will drive them out of your way. He will push them out before you, and you will take possession of their land, as the Lord your God promised you. Be very strong. Be careful to obey all that is written in the book of the law of Moses without turning aside the right to left. Do not associate with any of these nations that remain along you. Do not invoke the names of their gods or swear by them. You must not serve them or bow down to them, but you are to hold fast to the Lord your God as you have until now. The Lord has driven out before you great and powerful nations to this day, and no one was able to withstand you. One of your roots 1,000, because the Lord your God fights for you, just as he promised. So be careful to love the Lord your God. But if you turn away and ally yourselves with the survivors of these nations that remain among you, and if you intermarry with them and associate with them, then you may be sure that the Lord your God will no longer drive out these nations before you. Instead, they will become snares and traps for you, whips on your backs and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land which the Lord your God has given you. Now I'm about to go the way of the earth. Now I'm about to go the way of all the earth. You know with all your heart and soul that not one of these good promises that the Lord your God has given you has failed. Every promise has been fulfilled, and not one has failed. But just as every good promise of the Lord your God come true, so the Lord will bring you the evil that he has threatened until he destroys you from the good land he has given you. If you violate the covenant of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, and go and serve other gods and bow to them, the Lord's anger will burn against you, and you shall quickly perish from the good land that he has given you. So Moses is always the GOAT, but I do appreciate Joshua's consistent in his word too. And he reminds me of Moses too when he warns them. This handwriting is so ugly. Okay, I put Joshua was consistent with his word, and he reminded me a lot of Moses when warning them in his last days. So then this is 24. It said, Joshua assembled all the tribes of Israel at Shechem, and he summoned the elders, leaders, judges, and officials of Israel, and they presented themselves before God. Joshua said to all these people, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Long ago, your forefathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor, lived beyond the river and worshipped other gods. But I took your father Abraham from the land beyond the river and led him through Canaan and gave him many descendants. I gave him Isaac, and to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. Esau, I need to ask somebody. I don't know why I just keep asking somebody. I assigned the hill country of Seir to Esau, but Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt. Then I sent Moses and Aaron. And I afflicted the Egyptians by what I did there, and I brought you out. When I brought your fathers out of Egypt, you came to the sea, and the Egyptians pursued them with chariots and horsemen as far as the Red Sea. But they cried to the Lord for help, and he put a darkness between you and the Egyptians. He brought the sea over them and covered them. You saw with your own eyes what I did to the Egyptians when you lived in the desert for a long time. I brought you to the land of the Amorites who lived to the east of the Jordan, and they fought against you, but I gave them into your hand. I destroyed from them from before you, and you took possession of their land. When Balak, son of Zippor, the king of Moab, prepared to fight against Israel, he sent for Balaam, son of Beor, and put a curse on you. But I would not listen to Balaam because he blessed you again and again, and I delivered you out of his hand. Then you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho. The citizens of Jericho fought against you as you did the Amorites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, and Jebusites, but I gave them into your hands. I sent the hornet ahead of you, which drove them out before you. Also, the 2 Amorite kings, you did not do with it on your own sword and bow. I gave you a land on which you did not toil, in cities that you did not build, and you live in them and eat from the vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods your forefathers worshipped beyond the river in Egypt and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourself this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your forefathers served beyond the river or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you're living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Then the people answered, far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods. It was the Lord our God himself who brought us and our fathers out of Egypt from that land of slavery and performed those great signs before our eyes. He protected us on our entire journey among the nations through which we traveled. And the Lord drove out before us all the nations, including the Amorites who live in the land. We will too serve the Lord because he is our God. Joshua said to his people, you are not to serve the Lord. He is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your rebellion and your sins. If you forsake the Lord and serve foreign gods, he will turn and bring disaster on you and make an end to you after he has been good to you. But the Lord said to Joshua, no, we will serve the Lord. Then Joshua said, you are the witness against yourself that you have chosen to serve the Lord. Yes, we are witnesses, they replied. Now then, said Joshua, throw away the foreign gods that are among you and yield your hearts to the Lord, the gods of Israel. And the people said to Joshua, we will serve the Lord our God, and obey him. On that day, Joshua made a covenant for the people, and there at Shechem he drew up for them decrees and laws. And Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law for God. The book of the law of God. Then he took a large stone and set it under the oak near the holy place of the Lord. See, he said to all these people, that this stone be a witness against us, that it is heard heard all the words that the Lord said to us. It will be a witness against you if you are untrue to your God. Then Joshua sent the people away, each to their own inheritance. After these things, Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him in the land in his inheritance at Timnath-serah, in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Bash. Israel served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and the elders who outlived him, who had experienced everything the Lord has done for Israel. And Joseph's bones, which the Israelites had brought up from Egypt, were buried at Shechem, in the tract of the land that Jacob bought for 100 pieces of silver from the sons of Hamor, the sons of Shechem. This became the inheritance of Joseph's descendants. And Eleazar, son of Aaron, died. It was buried at Gibeah, which had been allotted to the sons of Phinehas in the hill country of Ephraim. Okay, two things here. So it says, first of all, basically it's saying, and from verse 14, it's saying, now fear the Lord and serve him and throw away your gods. But it's saying in 15, pick a side. So if you're gonna worship the gods of your forefathers, do that. If you're gonna worship other gods of this land, go ahead and do that. But make sure that you pick a decision. And God wants us to decide who we're gonna serve. Are we gonna serve money? Or we're gonna serve our job? Or we're gonna serve, our children? Are we gonna serve whatever? We gotta figure out who we're gonna serve, because there's only one. And that's why it says, me and my house, we're gonna serve the Lord. Period. Then, so that was number one. So chapter 24, pick who you are going to serve. Now, I already read the Bible, and I'm going to tell you that these people are still going to disobey, which is going to lead me to the second point. It says that people answer, far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods. It was the Lord our God himself who brought us and our fathers out of Egypt from that land of slavery and performed these great signs before our eyes. He protected us, blah, 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 blah. Now, just because you know what God has done doesn't always mean that you're going to follow him. So what I suggest is that, we continue to testify and give testimony. But also, one thing that I think is important that we also do is to write when we're going through things. I think it's important to write down how we feel. Like, I feel like garbage. I'm depressed. I'm about to face homelessness. I might get evicted. Lord, because then when God brings you out of it, you can go back to that journal and be like, dang, God really brought me out of that. Like, and I'm not saying that you always need to post about it, but I think it is important that we keep an account of how the Lord has brought us over some trials and tribulations, because I think sometimes we can forget. And the Israelites forgot in the wilderness. The Lord will give them a miracle and they would still complain. Or he would do this. He delivered them from Egypt and they complained because they didn't know where they were going. So keep / give testimonies about God's goodness and the things he brought you over. I'm gonna start just saying me over, because we can forget. shoot, sometimes I be forgetting, and that's why we have to remember who God is, because we be thinking that it's us that's doing something that's really not. Anyway, we're starting Judges. Judges number 1. So the author is unknown, though certain sections may be derived from the prophet Samuel. The audience is God chosen people, the Israelites. The date is around 1000 BC. The setting, in danger of losing the promised land, the Israelites are delivered again and again by God through the leaders known as judges. Boom. So we got four chapters. Let's go. So it says Israel fights the remaining Canaanites. So after the death of Joshua, the Israelites asked the Lord, "Who will be the first to go up and fight for us against the Canaanites?" The Lord answered, "Judah is to go, and I have given the land into their hands." Then the men of Judah said to the Simeonites, their brothers, "Come with us into the territory allotted to us to fight against the Canaanites. We in return will go with you into yours." So the Simeonites went with them. When Judah attacked, the Lord gave the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hands, and they struck down 10,000 men at Bezek. It was there that they found Adoni-Bezek and fought against him, putting to rout the Canaanites and Perizzites. Adoni-Bezek fled, but they chased him and caught him and cut his thumbs and big toes. Then Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off have picked up scraps under my table. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them. They brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. The men of Judah attacked Jerusalem also and took it. They put the city to the sword and set it on fire. After that, the men of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites living in the hill country, the Negev and the western foothills. They advanced against the Canaanites living in Hebron and defeated Jeshai, Ahiman, and Talmai. You already know how I feel about the names are. From there, they advanced against the people of Debir. And Caleb said, "I will give my daughter Esha in marriage to the man who attacks and captures Kiriath Sefer." Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it, so Caleb gave his daughter to him in marriage. One day she came to him and urged him to ask her father for a field. When she got off her donkey, Caleb said, "What can I do for you?" She replied, "To me a special favor, since you have given me the land, also give me springs of water." And Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. The descendants of Moses' father-in-law, the Kenite, went to the city of the palms, and when the men of Judah, went up from the city of palms with the men of Judah to live among the people in the desert of Judah and then the Negev near Arad. Then the men of Judah went with the Simeonites, their brothers, and attacked the Canaanites living in Zephath, and they totally destroyed the city. Therefore, it was called Hormah. The men of Judah also took Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron, each city with its territory. The Lord was with the men of Judah. They took possessions of the hill country, but they were unable to drive the people from the plains because they had iron chariots. As Moses promised, Hebron was given to Caleb, who drove it from the 3 sons of Anak. The Benjaminites, however, failed to dislodge the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. To this day, the Jebusites live with the Benjamites. Now the house of Joseph attacked Bethel, and the Lord was with them. When they sent men to spy out Bethel, the spies saw a man coming out of the city and said to them, "Show us how to get into the city, and we will see that you are treated well." So he showed them, and they put the city to the sword, but spared the man and his whole family. Then he went to the land of the Hittites, where he built the city and called it Luz, which he called it to the name of this day. But Manasseh didn't drive out the people of Beth Shean or Tanakh or Dor or Ibleam or Megiddo and their surrounding settlements, for the Canaanites were determined to live in that land. When Israel became strong, they pressed the Canaanites into forced labor, but never drove them out completely. Nor did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites living in Jezer, but the Canaanites continued to live there among them. Neither did Zebulun drive out the Canaanites living in Kitron or Nahalal, who remained among them, but they did not subject them to forced labor. Nor did Asher drive out those living in Acco or Sidon or Alab, or Ezib, or Ephek, and Ra, or Rehob. And because of these people of Esher lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, neither did Naphtali drive out the living in Beth Shemesh or Beth Anath. But the Naphtalites too lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, and those living in Beth Shemesh and Beth Anath became forced laborers to them. The Amorites confined the Danites to the hill country, not allowing them to come down into the plain, and the Amorites were determined to hold out Mount Heres, Ajalon, and Shalbim. And when the power of the house of Joseph increased, they too were pressed into forced labor. The boundary of the Amorites were from the Scorpion Pass to Sela and beyond. So we're starting to see already the consequences of not following God's instructions. He said to drive them out, and they were supposed to destroy them. Now we see that the Canaanites in different areas aren't moving. They're either not being forced into labor, or they're forced into labor, but they're not leaving, and they don't have enough power to drive them out. But it said before they even took over the land that God wanted them to destroy everybody who was in the land before them and their gods and everything that they worship. So we're starting to see the consequences already because they're not listening. So that's what I'm going to put for chapter 1. Starting to see consequences of not completely destroying the Canaanites / driving them out of the land. Okay, chapter 2. The angel of the Lord went to Gilgal to poke him and said, I brought you up out of Egypt and led you into the land that I swore to give your forefathers. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make my covenant with people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? Now, therefore, I tell you that I will not drive them out before you. They will be thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a snare to you. Because I remember that. When the angel of the Lord spoke these things to all of the Israelites, the people wept aloud, and they called the place Bochim, where they offered their sacrifices to the Lord. Disobedience and defeat. After Joshua had dismissed the Israelites, they went to take possession of the land, each to his own inheritance. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him and who had seen all the great things that the Lord done for Israel. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him in the land of inheritance at Timnath Heres in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gosh. After that whole generation had been gathered to their fathers, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he'd done for Israel, which is why we need to be telling our children about our testimony. Neither the Lord nor what he done for Israel. When the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served Baals, they forsook the Lord, the God of their fathers who brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshipped various gods of the peoples around them. They provoked the Lord to anger because they forsook him and served Baal. I think it's Baal, but they got him. And the Ashereths. In his anger against Israel, the Lord handed them over to raiders who plundered them. He sold them to their enemies all around, whom they were no longer to resist. Whenever Israel went to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he swore to them. They were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges who saved them from the hands of these raiders. Yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshipped them. Unlike their fathers, they quickly turned from the way in which their fathers had walked, the way of the obedience of the Lord commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was a judge and saved them out of the hands of the enemies for as long as the judge lived. For the Lord had compassion on them, and they groaned under those who oppressed and afflicted them. But when the judge died, the people returned to their ways, even more corrupt than their fathers, following other gods and serving and worshiping them. They refused to give up their evil practices and their stubborn ways. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and said, because his nation has violated the covenant that I laid down for their forefathers and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations that Joshua left when he died. I will use them to test Israel, to see whether they will keep the ways of the Lord and walk in their forefathers did. The Lord had allowed these nations to remain, and he did not drive them out at once by giving them into the hands of Israel. We're in chapter 3 now. It says, these are the nations the Lord left to test all the Israelites who had not experienced any of the wars in Canaan. The 5 rulers of the Philistines, all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, the Hivites living in the Lebanon mountains from Mount Baal Hermon to Lebo Hamath. They were left to test the Israelites to see whether they would obey the Lord's commands, which they had given their forefathers through Moses. The Israelites lived among the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. They took their daughters in marriage and gave their daughters to their sons and served their gods. The same thing that the Lord said not to do. If you don't remember, because I'm going to tell you. Othniel, the Israelites did evil things in the eyes of the Lord, and they forgot the Lord their God and served Baals and Asherahs. The anger of the Lord burned against Israel, so that he sold them to the hands of Cushan Rishathaim, king of Aram Naharaim, struggling, to whom the Israelites were subject for 8 years. But when they cried out to the Lord, he raised up them a deliverer, Othniel, son of Kenan, Caleb's younger brother, to save them. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, so he became Israel's judge and went to war. And the Lord gave Cushan, the king of Aram, into the hands of Othniel, who overpowered him. So the land had peace for 40 years until Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died. Ehud, I don't know. Once again, the Lord did evil things in the eyes of the Lord because they did this evil. The Lord gave Eglon, the king of Moab, power over Israel, getting the Ammonites and the Amalekites to join them. Eglon came and attacked Israel, and they took possession of the city of palms. The Israelites were subject to Eglon, king of Moab, for 18 years. Again, the Israelites cried out to the Lord, and he gave them a deliverer. Ehud, who was a left-handed man, son of Gerga, the Benjamite. The Israelites sent him with tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now, Ehud, who made double-edged sword about 1.5 feet long, which he strapped to his right thigh under his clothing, he presented the tribute to Eglon, the king of Moab, who was a very fat man. After Ehud had presented the tribute, he sent on their way the men who had carried it. At the idols near Gilgal, he himself turned back and said, I have a secret message for you, O king. The king said, quiet, and all his attendants left him. Ehud then approached him while he was sitting alone in the upper room of his summer palace and said, I have a message from God for you. The king rose from his seat and Ehud reached with his left hand and drew the sword from his right thigh and plunged it into the king's belly. Even the handle sank in after the blade, which came out his back. Ehud did not pull the sword out. The fat closed in over it, and Ehud went out to the porch, and he shut the doors of the upper room behind him and locked them. After he gone, the servants came back and found the doors in the upper room locked. They said he must be relieving himself in the inner room of the house. They waited to the point of embarrassment. But when he did not open the doors of the room, they took a key and unlocked it, and there they saw the Lord fallen on the floor dead. While they waited, Ehud got away, and he passed the idols and escaped to Syria. When he arrived there, he blew a trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites went with him from the hills, leading them. Follow me, he ordered, for the Lord has given Moab, your country, into your hand. So they followed him and taken possession of the fords of the Jordan, led to Moab, and they allowed no one to cross over. At that time, they struck down about 10 Moabites, all vigorous and strong. Not a man escaped. And in that day, Moab was made subject to Israel, the land of peace, for 80 years. Shamgar. After Ehud came Shamgar, the son of Anath, who struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad, and he too saved Israel. Last chapter. After Ehud died, the Israelites once again did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So the Lord sold them into the hands of Jabin, a king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harasheth Hagoyim, because he had 900 iron chariots and was cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. They cried to the Lord for help. Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lepithoth, was leading Israel at the time, because period. And she held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites came to her to have their disputes decided. She sent for Barak, son of Abinadab, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go and take 10,000 men from Naphtali in Zebulun and lead the way to Mount Tabor. I will lure Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River and give him into your hands." Barak said to her, "If you go with me, I will go, but if you don't go with me, I won't go." "Very well," she said, "I will go with you, but because of the way you are going about this, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will hand Sisera over to a woman. So because I gotta go with you, it's gonna be given to a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh, where he summoned Zebulun and Naphtali. 10,000 men followed them, and Deborah also went with him. Now Heber the Kenite left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree of Zenonim near Kadesh. When they told Sisera that Barak, son of Abinoam, would go up to the Mount Tabor, Sisera gathered his 900 iron chariots and all the men with him from Harosheth to the Kishon River. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Go, this is the day that the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has he not gone ahead of you?" So Barak went to Mount Tabor, followed by 10,000 men. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword, and Sisera abandoned his chariot and fled by foot. But Barak pursued the chariots and the army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and the troops of the Sisera fell by sword, and not a man was left. Sisera, however, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber, because there were friendly relations between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the clan of Heber the Kenite. Jael went to meet Sisera and said, "Come, my lord, come right in, don't be afraid." So he entered the tent, and she put a covering on him. "I'm thirsty," he said, "please give me some water." And she opened a skin of milk and gave him a drink and covered him up. Standing in the doorway of the tent, he said, "If someone comes by and says, 'Is anyone here?' say no." But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, and she drove the peg through his temple into the ground and died. The women are snappy. Barak came by in pursuit of Sisera and said to Jael, and Jael went to meet him and said, "Come, I will show you the man you're looking for." So he went with her and laid Sisera with the tent peg through his temple dead. On that day, God subdued Jabin, the Canaanite king, before the Israelites, and the hand of the Israelites grew stronger and stronger against Jabin, the Canaanite king, until they destroyed him. Period, period, period. The women were snapping, and I'm going to put that. And what was her name? Wife of who? It didn't even matter. I'm going to say her name. Jael. I'm going to have to figure it out. Kill Sisera. The king of, who's the king? Oh, let me say the Canaanite king. But I do want to add this, that, so what she said, what Deborah said, she said, if I go, in verse 8 and 9, it says, Barak to her, "If you go with me, I'll go, but if you don't go with me, I won't go." She said, "Very well, if I go with you," she said, "Very well, I will go with you, but because the way you are doing about this, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will hand Sisera over to a woman." Because if I go with you, then I'm getting some of the honor, because why do I have to go with you? So that is the reading for today. I will see y'all later tonight. I hope you have a wonderful day. Have a good day at work. Do y'all thing. Do y'all do y'all thing. Yeah. Have a good day.